What's up? I got everybody here from TMI. Don't forget to write us an email at tmipodcast2018. That's tmipodcast2018 at gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. Also, check us out on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. Just use the numbers, don't spell it out.
Ooh, don't forget Facebook.com/TMI podcast 2018.
Follow us on the Apple Podcast app. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review.
All you YouTubers out there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, TMI Podcast 2018. Look for the popcorn bucket.
That's right. Also, check us out on Spotify and the Google Play Music app for all you Android users. Follow us and subscribe everywhere. We appreciate it. We're doing it for you guys, the fans. Thank you.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Dave Odinson Warhowski, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Mike Mjolnir Evans. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Me. Check. How now, brown cow?
No echoes today? Echoes?
Echo.
No echo.
No?
I got nothing. No, I haven't really heard that the last couple.
Nobody's got that Pink Floyd album? No.
I don't own any Pink Floyd. I'm not a big Pink Floyd fan.
Maybe we should just, I'm already recording. Maybe we should just keep this all at the top.
Yeah, fine. Let's go. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
All our listeners are now privy to the stupid crap that we talk about pre-show.
These are the bonus features. So we are deep in the holiday season here as we record this.
I think I hear Santa.
Thanksgiving and Black Friday is behind us, and we were looking dead ahead into the Christmas season.
And I'm crying.
And Jeff, as you mentioned, maybe we can incorporate into a future episode our favorite Christmas holiday specials.
That's a must.
Movies, specials, we could do a whole episode on it.
I think that's exactly what we need to do, because obviously we probably all have our one or two go-tos, but then there's a lot of current stuff that I tend to find myself watching. So,
but yeah, maybe we should do that in a couple of weeks. We don't want to do it too close to Christmas, because then really we're shortchanging the fans out there that want to get into the Christmas spirit. So maybe we could do it a little bit earlier in December.
I mean, all those people who actually put up their decorations a week before Halloween.
All those people, and I don't know how much of a percentage of those people incorporate our listeners. Maybe much smaller percent. Yeah.
One.
But if you count yourselves among those, then yeah, we cater to you.
Yeah, you gotta listen to something while you're putting up all those
exactly. Yeah.
lights.
So yeah, we're back. Hope you enjoed our Thanksgiving Monster Mash episode.
I listened to it and I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah.
But then again,
and all those people that say that we spoil stuff and that's why you don't listen to these new episodes, that is not a spoiler episode unless you've never seen it. So go back and listen. No excuse. Go back and listen to our Thanksgiving episode.
There you go.
We work hard on these things.
We do. We put a lot of thought into them, to be honest with you. Maybe too much thought.
So on a somber note, this past week, we got the sad news that Stan Lee passed away.
Yeah, that was a bit of a bummer, but I mean, the man was 95, so it's not.
He did live a long life, and he got to enjoy the spoils and the gratitude of fans all around the world, because these Marvel movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has really opened up his characters to a whole new audience, people that would have never cracked open a comic book that now love these characters. Just as much as we do, the kids that grew up on his comic books. So just the fact that he was alive long enough to really see the impact of those characters on people around the world, and hopefully he was suitably gratified.
I can't imagine that he wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, but you say, yeah, I mean, we grew up with comic books, and there's not a single comic book that I own in my collection where a Marvel book where you open it up, it does not say Stan Lee presents.
Right.
So he was synonymous with comics for me. I mean, even the Star Wars book. I went back and opened up my Marvel comic, Star Wars #1, and there it is right there. Stan Lee presents Star Wars. He had nothing to do with it, but he still got credit in the comic.
And the fact that we as kids, before the internet, before everybody had an iPhone, we knew what this guy looked like just because his animated self was always in the bullpen pages or what have you. So I knew what he looked like when I was 8 or 9 years old. I didn't need any of these cameos.
Yeah, he was very iconic. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Stan Lee Stokebox always had a little caricature of him.
Yeah, I could have recognized him on the street. And then 1978, I think I would have known who he was.
Well, his voice is very iconic as well. And probably kids of a later generation, not us, but anybody who grew up with the X-Men cartoons, or even, didn't he narrate Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends?
I think you may be right about that.
I definitely know that he narrated the X-Men cartoons in the 90s because he always called us true believers. And we are. And we are. And you have to think that there really isn't, there's nobody else who's kind of taken characters and created such an encompassing universe. Like you said, Jim, we're now these, they kind of have a life of their own on screen. Even kids that grew up and didn't read comic books. I mean, outside of George Lucas, and even then George, he created the first movie or whatever, but this guy is like he'll forever be enmeshed with these characters: Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, X-Men.
Yeah, he had these amazing 1 or 2 years of absolute creativity.
I mean, he gets a lot of the credit, and that he was the showman. He was the guy out front that we all knew and loved. But I mean, without the artists behind him, the Steve Ditkos or the Jack Kirbys of the world that made these ideas come to life. But really, he was the guy. Like we said, he was the guy that was out front. We saw him. We knew him. We knew who he was. He was the huckster. He was the guy constantly believing in these things 30, 40 years ago, long before anybody embraced him and really kind of put him on the screen and made him believable. I would think the only other person I can think of, and we'll get into it, is J.K. Rowling has really done a fantastic job of creating this kind of standalone universe with these characters that other people can now come in and play with.
Yeah.
Interesting point. I had not thought of that.
Yeah. And just the amount of catchphrases that Stan Lee has on. Well, he already said true believers, but Excelsior,
which I think no kid knew what that meant until they looked it up. But yeah, Excelsior.
Yeah, enough said became part of my vocabulary.
Enough said. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if he came up with the no prize, but that was a big deal. If you found I don't know if anybody really remembers this, but if you found a goof or a typo or something that didn't make sense in a comic book and you wrote in with the plausible answer, you received what they referred to as a no prize. And it really was no prize. It was an empty envelope, but it was genius. You got, so you would get accolades.
I was always hopeful that it would be a certificate of some kind.
It was a no prize. That's genius.
And then we had the Mighty Marvel bullpen as well.
Mighty Marvel bullpen. We could go on.
Many memories of mine were thanks to Mr. Lee. So I would like to thank him now for everything that he's done for me.
I will back that up and just say the man had a nice run.
He sure did.
Yeah.
And we do have some news.
So news.
We've heard that, or actually it's more scuttlebutt than actual fact online. I can't substantiate this with anything, but there's a lot of articles going around.
Online is not true.
Yeah, sometimes it's completely the opposite of what
I think most of it is.
But at this point, this is all we have. So there is apparently a script that's floating around for the third installment of what is being called the Prometheus trilogy from Ridley Scott. And it sounds like this may be the best plot line of all three of these movies. So as we know, in Prometheus, an exploratory team goes out into deep space. Unbeknownst to them, they have an aged Peter Weyland on board. along with his manservant, who is a robot named David. And they're looking for the creators of humanity, who are the engineers, which also happen to be the creators of this black goo that's like a weapon of mass destruction. So they find these creatures, these engineers. There's some altercations. Wayland dies, and David ends up taking one of their horseshoe-shaped spaceships to the home planet, along with Elizabeth Shaw, who's looking to find faith in her own way. So then that's the end of Prometheus. We go into Alien Covenant, which is more like the original Alien movie, where it's the monster on a ship type scenario again. But it does work in these engineers, where we find out that David did make it to the planet. He's wiped out the entire race of engineers by unleashing this weapon of mass destruction, the black goo, upon them.
Black goo.
So at the end of Alien Covenant, David has commandeered a vessel of hundreds of colonists who are in hypersleep because they're looking to populate another planet that's hospitable to human life. They had thought they found it in this paradise, but then they found that David had perpetrated genocide upon the engineer race. So that ends Alien Covenant. So with the new movie, the plot line is that there's a few engineers that have survived. So they're chasing David throughout the cosmos, and they end up on LV-426, which is the planet that the Nostromo crashes down on Alien. So the action in this script takes place on that planet, and it's all supposed to bring it back into a full circle, so that when Alien ends, is where this movie ends. So I find this incredibly exciting, just because the two Prometheus movies, Prometheus and Covenant, haven't really given any indication of how they tie into the original Alien, and a lot of their plot points really contradict the original Alien. It sounds like, from what this movie is, it is making an attempt to bring it all into focus. And I really hope that they end up making it, because Covenant didn't do as well as Prometheus did. I think it was a disappointment by Fox standards.
Well, I will put out there that I think Prometheus was a disappointment, and that's why I didn't go see Covenant.
Well, a disappointment to you personally, right? Yes.
Yeah, but if I'm the
did well.
diehard Alien fan, I'm willing to invest in Prometheus, and I didn't care for the direction, nor did it make any sense to me.
It didn't make sense.
I did not go and see Covenant, so I am one of those people that brought it down.
I enjoyed Prometheus much more than I did Covenant. And I will agree that there were some ambiguous aspects to Prometheus, but I did enjoy the fact that they wanted to take it somewhere different in the acting, and I loved Michael Fassbender as David.
There was a lot to like about it. There was a lot I didn't like about it.
A lot to not like about it. I agree with that. Yeah. And maybe we should table this until we should.
No, this could be a 4-hour conversation.
So you can finally watch it. But yeah, that was my news item, is that they are planning, or have a script at least out there, for a third Alien movie.
And what is your source, Jim?
Sci-fi magazine, online magazine. But again, they're just reporting stuff that they've heard. So it's not.
But somebody's got to be putting that out there. Whether it's Ridley Scott himself trying to excite the fan base.
Yeah, but one of the things that I really felt that Covenant was lacking was a follow-through from Prometheus. The engineer part of it was really underbaked, and
which is weird because because like you said, that he went to the degree of creating a whole new kind of idea here, and then to not follow up with it is just it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
All back to victim of the
make it into a more conventional Alien movie or not, but yeah, right. He didn't follow through with Prometheus.
Yeah. So, well, interesting. We'll have to see. Keep an eye out on that and see if it comes to fruition.
Yes. And the only other thing that I saw that was of note was that Nicholas Roeg died, who is the director of The Man Who Fell to Earth, which is a sci-fi landmark.
Yeah.
And he was 90 years old. So
90.
A tip of the hat to Mr. Roeg.
We're losing these guys in their 90s now. Huh?
So as you may or may not know, I was in Disney World for the past week.
The happiest place on earth.
The happiest place on earth, yes. And really, I haven't been there for a couple of years. We love to take my son down there. I hadn't seen any of the new stuff they've got in Animal Kingdom in terms of Pandora or the Avatar section. I hadn't seen the Toy Story Land in Hollywood Studios. They have not yet completed the Star Wars land. That was in the process of being built, and it looks like it's coming along nicely.
Were you able to peek through the fence?
I was able, from the Slinky Dog roller coaster, when I was on the top apex.
Slinky Dog hooking Jim up.
It did. Everybody was screaming because it was a part of the ride where the track kind of goes sideways and you're up in the air at a very high apex of this ride. And so it's almost kind of designed to move your attention away from the construction that's going on. But no, I wasn't having any of that. I was looking over the wall, and I did see it was like a scene right out of The Force Awakens. It was one of those spaceports. Maybe it was like a little bit of Tatooine-ish going on, but it was a very large area. I didn't see the Millennium Falcon, though, because apparently they're a full-size Millennium Falcon.
They are indeed. And there are aerial shots. I guess there's other people who've been able to take behind-the-scenes stuff, and it's pretty much complete.
Oh, yeah, and the buildings that I saw looked pretty much complete. They still had scaffolding around them. I think they were still painting.
I will say there's no way I'm going anywhere near this for the first 2 or 3 years.
Because Toy Story Land, which has been in existence for about a year now, was jammed. The rest of the park was empty. And Toy Story Land was just teeming with people.
Yeah, Star Wars Land, Star Wars is going to be just insane. But do you know that one of the things that they want to eventually do is almost like live action role playing, where you'll be able to go in to this land playing a character, and just like on a video game, you'll be able to go up and find other characters that you can interact with and ask them questions if you're on a quest for a specific purpose. And you can go there and just experience the whole thing, as a spectacle, or you can go there as almost a cast member and play this interactive live role-playing game, for lack of a better term.
So it's a virtual reality?
Basically, but you're interacting with real cast members. Maybe you find you're looking for a droid that has a printout or something that's going to take you to point B, that's going to get you to follow up on your quest.
Almost like a murder mystery party.
Basically, but in a Star Wars universe.
Right.
So maybe you have the Empire after you. Maybe you're on the run. I mean, there's endless possibilities with this thing. I think this is phenomenal.
That's very promising. I did see the Star Wars Hotel being built as well.
Yeah.
And that is not anywhere near complete. That's just still in the girders stage at this point.
And I'm sure it's already booked.
I'm sure it is. But I did read some interesting things where once you check into that hotel, you're completely immersed in the experience, where you're not checking into a hotel. You're actually entering a spaceport. And all the people at the check-in desk are acting as such. There
you go. And that's the way it should be. Completely. That is the future. It's not. You're now part of the ongoing storyline.
So it is a very impressive place to be. Anybody that has not visited Walt Disney World, just the immersiveness that you get in each individual attraction, and even just walking around in the park with interacting with the characters. And I don't know what any of these cast members' personal stories are. Maybe they're just smiling through their anger and regret. But they just genuinely seem to be very friendly and happy to have.
You have to be. That's what you're getting paid for. I don't want to see a grumpy Jasmine. I don't care you had a bad day. You smile and you take a picture with my daughter.
So I have nothing bad to say about the employees of Walt Disney World. The denizens of the park, however,
to say about you.
The denizens of the park, however, is a different
questionable.
Story. I was often thinking of our old friend Forrest Gump as I was walking through the park, and just kind of tweaked his saying to "stupid is as stupid looks."
Oh boy.
If somebody looks like they're stupid, smells like they're stupid, and pretty much you can count on that they are stupid.
Wow.
The different types of body odors that I experienced while I was in Disney, like in close quarters with people standing in line. I don't know if certain parts of the country just don't manufacture deodorant, or it's illegal.
I think as a country, we're over clean. We tend to mask our musk.
But it's just
other countries revel in it. Well,
they're standing.
I guess if it doesn't bother
children standing armpit level behind you in line are just
true. Dad, what's that smell? Did Goofy just let one go? Oh man!
Just the fact that everybody's pushing and shoving, nobody is nice to each other. You know?
So Jim just turned the happiest place on earth to the New York subway system.
It is. And then
I don't want to go now.
Then you get in the ride and you
I just
forget
canceled
about
my
it because
ticket.
you're, ensconced in your little capsule or your car, and you forget about it for 10 minutes and you're happy, and then you get off and you have to walk amongst these people again.
Yeah.
And also, let me just bring this up: the phenomenon of what I like to call ass pants.
Oh, I don't like them at all. I know where you're going with it.
Now, these are like, maybe some people call them tights, maybe some people call them yoga pants. It's just a cavalcade of asses bouncing around. Thousands of asses. You ever look around and you cannot look away from them. And it's just, and like, they're all bouncing in their own rhythm. And it's like, I was getting palpitations because my body rhythm was adapting to all these bouncing.
Nice.
And
Boom, baba, boom, baba, boom, baba, boom, baba, boom.
and it's
Walt would be proud.
And really, do these people realize that their entire ass is on display, not even with any jacket or coat hanging?
Did you take your meds when you were on vacation? I think Jim might have. Wow.
So yeah. So that's something. I don't know when that became popular, but that was, every female was wearing. And
Now I want to go back. Now you changed my mind.
Well, now everyone knows how to dress when they go to Disney World. Thanks.
That's true. I would think that a Mickey Mouse shirt would be in order, but obviously Under Armour.
And one shout out to the lady in Avatar Land who was on her scooter, because there's a lot of people that are, legitimately handicapped that cannot walk the long distances that are required to walk in Disney and the parks, because it is a grueling day when you're at a Disney park. But there was one woman, unapologetically, she was on the scooter and she was gunning it. It was
Nice.
it was as fast as it could be going. And people were having to jump out of her way. Kids, women,
Was it a runaway scooter?
it wasn't a runaway
control
scooter.
it.
And she was bitterly yelling at people that were in her way. And
I
there
think
was
it was
one
Sandra
woman-
Bullock. She was remaking Speed.
She was. There was one woman that kind of jumped out of her way and
I
said,
can't
"You almost
go
hit me."
150
And then
rides.
she said back to her, "You were in my way." And to the people like that, just don't go to Disney. If you're going to be like that and actually go out of your way to make other people unhappy.
She was late for the
Hey,
tea
Hall.
party.
Yeah.
Good night.
For your safety, please remain seated and keep your arms and legs inside the carriage.
Wow.
So there you go. That's really all I had to say.
But otherwise, you had fun.
Otherwise, I had fun. Yeah, and I said this before. The Avatar portion of Animal Kingdom is very impressive. It really is like walking into the movie. But Avatar was never a big deal to me. I don't know how many people really hold Avatar to their hearts like they do Star Wars.
Well, there's 8 more movies coming, so you better enjoy it.
There are, but just that I question the decision behind that to
I
spend
think
billions
Cameron
of
did a hard
dollars.
sell on that one. He's like, I got more coming. I'm in the Avatar business.
And there's only 2 rides in this section of the park.
Did you get to ride on one of those dragons?
No, that
What?
ride had a 3-hour wait.
What?
And we couldn't get
so
a fast
so
pass.
it's an option. So it's an option is all right. So that's
Yeah.
one of your rides. What's the other one? You get
The other one was more of like it was along the lines of it's a small world where you're in a boat and you're just going through the forest of Avatar,
What?
and it's those blue fluorescent things are coming down from the
Yeah.
ceiling, and that's all it was. There was no thrill ride aspect to it at all.
Mm.
And of course we got the fast pass for this, and afterwards the people on the boat with us were like, well, that was boring.
Let's go back and look at some asses.
But yeah, there's no need to go back. You just stare forward and you see one.
Pandora.
But yeah, we couldn't get on. I was not going to spend 3 hours of my day waiting in line.
That's a huge
Right.
chunk of your day, even with the fast pass.
So there we go. And I did go to the Orange Bird.
We saw the Orange Bird, the picture.
The
of
Orange
him
Bird
on-
orange vanilla ice cream stop,
on
which
our
is always a
Facebook
must at
page.
Disney.
I think I knew who he was.
So rant complete.
Wow, that was a spectacle. We waited 2 weeks for that.
So will you be going back anytime soon, Jim?
I will be going back after they open this. Well, after they open the Star Wars land.
I think we need to plan this, the 3 of us. I think we just need to take.
I do want to sit in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon as
Don't
they.
we all? Can you only imagine what that's going to look like in 3 years?
Yeah, and it's
All
from the
those
sound of
asses.
it, they're holding on opening that until 2021.
What?
which will coincide with the 50th anniversary of the
Yikes.
opening of Disney World.
Oh, I was going to think it's 2021. Okay. That seems like a long way away.
It does. It totally does. It just because of the fact that it seems to be almost ready. I can't imagine they would hold it back.
Well, that's like when you build a house, you get the outside shell done first, and then it's all the interior stuff that, the little secret stuff you don't know about. Maybe I'll get a job. Maybe I'll go down there and just become like a character.
Maybe we should all do that.
That would be fun.
I'm down.
I would be Smiles all day. Listen, I go to work and I'm Smiles all day.
They need like admin people, right? We can do desk jobs for Disney down
We
there.
could be like those goofy pod racer announcers in episode 1. We can all look like little aliens and just.
But there are people
talk
that
about
just
people
do.
that are on the
There are
streets.
podcasters that just do podcasts about their trips to Disney for people traveling.
Yeah. Is it something Neverland? Is a pretty good podcast with they talk Disney. Finding Neverland? I don't remember now.
Let's rethink our career choices.
Skywalking.
Podcasting here.
Skywalking through Neverland, I think is what it's called.
So
right.
you may or may have not by this time forgotten about why we're actually here.
I forgot what the heck we're doing here.
We're going into the wizarding world of Harry Potter today.
Don't call it a Harry Potter movie. I had 3 people tell me that. They're like, what are you doing this weekend? I said, I have to go see the new Harry Potter movie. It's not Harry Potter. Well, it's a Harry Potter world.
It is.
It's part of the Potterverse.
Yeah, it's Dumbledore.
Of the Crimes of Grindelwald, it opens up with that logo, the Wizarding World.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes.
Again, and J.K. Rowling wrote both of these movies. She's got control over everything, and I give her credit.
Jeff, I know that your kids were Potterphiles. How
Yes, my
many
daughter.
midnight book premieres did you attend?
I probably went, not the first one, definitely not the first one. My daughter was born in 2000, so I think the first one was already out by then. But me and my buddy, we would go. We had kids around the same age, and she wasn't old enough to even read. But we were those creepy old guys that would go and wait in line at midnight at the Barnes & Noble or Walmart, depending on whoever was going to do that. I think initially it was like Barnes & Noble, and then I think some of these other stores got smart and started doing the same thing. And we would go, and I'd get my copy. As soon as Skylar was old enough, like she plowed through these books. Ben, not so. Ben is a boy and didn't really care to read. She had all of them, and she read through them. And then, of course, as the movies came out, as we got older, we would watch them in the theaters, but we do own all of them on disc. I do like them. I like the later ones. And it's funny because David Yates, who directed both of these, directed, I think, the last 4 Harry Potter movies. So they definitely have a look and a feel that carries through.
Mike, have you read the books at all?
I've read them all.
Oh, there you go.
So I came late to the game, and I think the 3rd book was out. So I read 1, 2, and 3 probably within a week or 2 weeks. And
that's cool. I mean, imagine that. Like that's us as a kid, waiting 3 years for a new Star Wars movie. These kids who plow through these books and now have to wait. So yeah, for kids who had to wait, they were lined up. There were kids when I was there at midnight who, as soon as they got that book, opened it up, sat in the corner, and just started reading.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's powerful to have that ability to engross these kids and to make them so invested in this world.
I think this, more than any series, got kids back into reading.
Yeah. I mean, and she, we can get into the story of J.K. Rowling, basically destitute, living in a little apartment, writing this on her train in the apartment with her daughter, and just couldn't sell it to anybody. And I think even Scholastic, once it became a hit over in the UK, Scholastic really took a chance on it. There was a lot of people who didn't believe in it, and it was sold right. I think it came along in the right moment, and just hit that zeitgeist and became a phenomenon. But she has never relinquished control. Even after the last book was published in the last movie, and she was very involved with all the movies, which is almost unheard of, because you would think that most of these studios, they get the rights to it and they're like, all right, thank you very much. You've done your part and we're going to go off and do our own thing. And she's stayed very attached to it and really had a lot of behind the scenes insight to a lot of these characters. But then she started that website where she continued building up this world. And I think it was like a subscription based, where these kids you could go, and she would populate it. And this is actually where this Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. It was like a field guide of all these little creatures that inhabit the Potterverse, the worlds. And then they published it, Scholastic published it. And then I was actually laughing when I first heard that they were going to make this into a movie. Because I'm like, how do you turn a field guide into a movie? They did.
It's almost akin to the J.R.R. Tolkien. What is that book that he came out with?
The Similarian?
The Similarian, yes. That I think Peter Jackson
mined
in order to flesh out the
Right.
Hobbit movies that he did, the 3 parts of that.
Yeah, there you go. I'll add J.K. Rowling. Tolkien to that Stan Lee list of creators who really kind of built their own worlds.
So yeah, for me, I've read the Potter books, not as they were coming out, but I think I saw the first 2 movies because they were really the first 2 books, and I don't think anybody would argue with this, are really geared towards kids. And as the books progress, then they get more mature.
So you follow that. So what she did was, I think in the first book, Harry's 8 years old, and I could be wrong, and someone right now is yelling at me. But she wrote to that age level. So every year is a new year in Harry's life in the school. And as he got older, she wrote to that age group. So if you were 8 years old when you started reading this, your reading level comprehension went up as the same time as Harry's age went up. So by the time you get to that 7th and 8th book, you're now like a 16, 17-year-old kid. So that's what she wrote to. And I thought that's very clever on her part. Now, obviously, there's kids now who, pick the book up and they plow through them all at once because they all exist. But yeah, those early books were specifically written at a kid level.
So after the first couple of movies came out, so after I saw that, I was like, I got to read these now. So I read the first 2 books, and I thought that I'm going to wait until the 3rd movie is about to get released, and then I'll read the book beforehand, because I don't like being spoiled, but at the same time, I do like to watch a movie that's based on a book that I've read and try to compare it as I'm watching the movie.
Yeah, but don't you get mad because there was so much that was left out of these books?
And that's what I found. Yeah. The books are just like a goldmine of information and characters, and you can only put so much into the movies. So I always read the books first as a foundation and then watched the movies afterwards. So I did that all through the series from Azkaban up to the very last book.
Which probably most of these kids did.
So that brings us to Fantastic Beasts. The Potter series ended really kind of on a final note, showing Harry a little bit older. They could continue his story.
They did. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. It's on Broadway right now.
On Broadway, yes. But are there any plans of making that into a film?
Not that I know of. I don't believe that is the case. I think it's going to stand alone as a Broadway show. But it did very well in London. So they have expanded. They've moved on, even though she said she never would.
But then, as you said, they took this little guidebook, the Fantastic.
There's too much money to be made. I hate to say it, but that franchise to just kind of, and Disney was smart when they took Star Wars. For better or for worse, they're going to milk it dry. Mm-hmm. So, and at least with this franchise, you still have the creative force behind it involved. So she still has a say, even though when we get into the Crimes of Grindelwald, that there seems to be some cracks in the veneer, I think. If you want to, I don't know. Again, maybe just like we talk about aliens, if you can make a 3rd movie and tie it all together and make that 2nd movie better, then so be it.
So what are our initial thoughts of the first film, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? There's a lot of plot going on, so I don't want to really rehash too much. But basically, our main character is Newt Scamander, as played by Eddie Redmayne. And he is a young wizard who is not that far out of Hogwarts, I don't think. He is acquainted with Dumbledore. One of his favorite students is Newt.
Was Dumbledore mentioned in the first movie?
He is.
He is mentioned. Little throwaway.
Not at all, but he's mentioned.
Right.
So Newt is visiting New York. And I don't know if he's on a research trip, if he's looking for creatures, but he has a briefcase full of creatures that he's brought with him. And of course, through some wacky escapades with a character by the name of Jacob, played by Dan Clover.
Kowalski, who is my favorite character in all of Potterverse now.
So they do the old switcheroo with their briefcases.
Briefcase switcheroo.
Yep, because Jacob is a baker, and their briefcases, of course, look identical to each other.
Well,
so then Newt ends up with the pastries.
There's not many suitcase companies, I guess.
Yeah, Newt ends up with the pastries. Jacob ends up with the Fantastic Beasts, lets them out. So that's really where this movie begins. And in the background, we have the story of Grindelwald. who is like a magical Hitler kind of character, much in the same vein as Voldemort is.
Yep.
Who's looking for domination over the non-mage or the Muggles, however you would like to call them. So that's basically the setup of the movie, is that the main plot is Newt trying to get his creatures back into his case. But in the background, we've got Colin Farrell as Percival Graves, who is the director of security for the Congress of Magic. Well, so he's on their tail, and then the threat of Grindelwald is in the background the whole time. So that's the setup of the movie, and I really think it does capture the essence of the other Harry Potter films, especially the later.
Even though this is technically a prequel, so this is like 1926. It's like two different movies going on. You've got this lighthearted romp of Newt and his friends here. You got Kowalski, and he teams up with this other girl who she's an aura, or she was part of the ministry and then had been demoted.
Right, Tina Goldstein and Aurors. I think they are like detectives that are looking for dark magicians.
Right, but somehow she had been demoted. But anyways, right, so it's like there's a storyline of Newt and this core group chasing after these fantastic beasts. But you have like the darker undertones of what's going on behind it. Like you said, there's this whole backstory of Grindelwald and all this other stuff. There's a character, Credence.
I love Credence. So you got a big scare up there, huh? Oh, yeah. Want to see something really scary?
Who just runs around with his haircut. He's like a page boy bowl cut.
Right. And sucking his cheeks in all the time as well.
Well, do you know, it took me until the second movie yesterday, sitting through the credits, to realize that's Ezra Miller. That's the kid who played Flash in the Justice League.
Yep.
A complete 360-degree turn in the Justice League from this character.
Yeah. I was actually very surprised, and I was like, oh. Damn.
And when I first saw Fantastic Beasts, of course, this was pre-Justice League, so I didn't know Ezra Miller from Adam. So, you know, my first thoughts were, this guy's, a creep.
He plays him very creepily.
Robin's up in the kitchen cabinet again.
Is it because he is friends with the cereals? No, it was just him eavesdropping on you like a creep. How does one drop the eaves?
It means he was secretly listening to your conversation, like a creep.
Well, but again, like you said, it's like this fun, whimsical romp with Newt, and then you have this heavy backstory, this dark, it's like the sinister shenanigans going on, and you're like, what? I like this. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but really I sat down and watched it the other day. That whole opening sequence where the little Niffler, he looks like a little hedgehog platypus and he steals gold, is on the loose in the bank. Like, that to me was fun. That was just, but even after the second movie, this Eddie Redmayne, is that his name?
Redmayne? Yeah.
Like he can't, I don't know if it's the way he acts or if that's his character he's playing, but the guy can't maintain eye contact with anybody. No. Like he's constantly looking down, talking.
And he mumbles.
And 2 movies in, well, I'm almost like, is this guy wearing like a mouthpiece, like a Freddie Mercury mouthpiece? Because he's got such a weird front teeth and his mouth is extra wide.
We need to catch all your creatures so he can't keep using them as a scapegoat.
There's only one still missing. Dougal, my demiguise.
And I'm like, 2 movies in, I'm still on the fence about whether or not I even like this character. So, but I did like the first one a lot. But it's very obvious there's a whole backstory of humans distrusting the wizards, and the wizards are in hiding. And you've got like this old school propaganda, women on the street corners, professing their wickedness, and we got to turn them in. And the wizards are in hiding going, we're superior to these people. We should just take over. And there's a reason that what are they, nomage?
Nomage.
Or the muggles are afraid of these people because they're running around zapping and changing history and doing all kinds of crazy shit every time. Like, it's like, yeah, we should be afraid of you.
I was really confused as to why the magic population should be afraid of the nomage, because they're afraid that they'd be hunted down. And they wouldn't stand a chance against just a couple of these magicians that knew what they were doing.
It's racial undertones, really, right? That people are afraid of them.
That's what they're going for in this.
Yeah,
it's very similar to the mutant issue with the X-Men, and it's very similar to that.
But you get a little hint of it in the Crimes of Grindelwald, right, where they do that World War II kind of flash.
Oh yeah. Because right.
But there is something to be worried about if you're a magic user.
Yeah, this is who we're up against. you know, humans that are willing to do anything to stop each other. So if you're up against, I don't know, I liked it a lot. The first one, I thought it was fun. Set design is just off the wall. It's off the charts. It really is. I mean, they're running around in old New York, cobblestone streets, and you got Model Ts are right. It just, like, you don't know where you know it's all CG. You know this stuff is like 90% of this is not even practical. But it's just so flawless. It's definitely lighter and a little more fun than the second movie. Jon Voight completely wasted.
Yes.
In the first one, it's like, oh, that's Jon Voight, and then he goes nowhere, nothing. He gets a little second cameo. I will say, what's her name's sister, Tina, Queenie.
Yes,
Queenie. Loved her. She's like Betty Boop personified. Yeah, basically. And I actually put in my notes, what a dame, because it's funny. We would have called her back in the day.
Teeny, you brought men home.
So Kowalski is embroiled in mixed in all of this. The magic people are supposed to be in hiding. So now all of a sudden he's being witness to all this stuff. And she's like, well, don't get too attached to him because we're going to have to obliterate him at some point. And he's like, but I'm having fun. Did you pick up on the actor who played the little elf, the boss man elf in the bar?
This was when
they're out in the little cabaret bar down
that
in the
tried to take the little green guy from
Yes, correct. Yes. Yeah.
That was Hellboy, right? That was
Ron Perlman. You are correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the movie and I'm like, I recognize the voice. They used just enough of his face, even though he's a goblin. And then when I saw the credits, I'm like, Ron Perlman, there you go.
So let's talk about the Obscurus for a second, because talk about an obscure plot point, this Obscurus. Apparently, what this is a parasite that lives within a child who's got magic in his blood. It's a parasite that comes to someone who's suppressing their magical abilities. It's really a red herring, because at first you think it's, what's the little girl's name?
The little girl's name
Modesty.
was Modesty, yeah.
So throughout most of the movie, you think because she's got a wand hidden under a bed, she's the one.
Not only that, but she's a little demonic looking, and she always seems to be doing something.
Yeah, the camera lingers on her quite a bit in the
beginning. Yeah, it's like you said, it's definitely a red herring. They want you to think that that's the one, and you've got Colin Farrell's character creeping around in the background with Credence.
And so Colin Farrell wants her because she's got the Obscurus, she's a very powerful magician. And we learn a little bit later, it's not entirely altruistically that he's looking for her. He's really wants her for his own purposes. But then we find out that no, it's not Modesty. It's Credence himself who's got the Obscurus, the Obscurus is doing all this damage. Whenever Credence, I think, has a meltdown, the Obscurus comes out and wreaks havoc in New York.
Yeah, he's like Venom.
Credence, I owe you an apology.
I trusted you. That you were my friend. That you were different.
You can control it, Credence.
I don't think I want to, Mr. Graves.
So my question is if an Obscurus is something that takes root in a child that has suppressed their magical abilities, wouldn't Harry Potter himself be a prime candidate for an Obscurus?
Was he suppressing, or did he just not know?
He didn't know he was a magician. He was stuck in the Uncle Vernon's basement.
But is that suppression? If you're, I would think that if you're suppressing it, that you're purposely, that he didn't know, he didn't realize who.
Or is it just
Harry
maybe?
Potter, I think they're missing that there. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Harry Potter fans, please, if you have an explanation for that, let us know.
Well, we have 3 more movies to go in this, so. Obviously, we realize that even though there's a big battle at the end of this movie, he survives. And you see that. And I thought that Newt realized it as well. So why Newt is suddenly surprised in the second movie that Credence survived, I thought was a little weird.
And the fact at the end of this movie, after all the action is over, and then we find out that Percival Graves is not Percival Graves, but in fact he is Grindelwald.
It's Johnny Depp.
It's Johnny Depp. It's not Colin Farrell.
I take exception to his hairdo, though. I think he saw a picture of me and he wanted his hair.
Bleach blonde hairdo, yeah.
Yeah, a little spiky.
You don't have quite that sheen though in your.
No, well, I don't have the Wandering Eye either. Not yet.
This begs the question, was Percival Graves ever a real person? Did he kill the real Percival Graves and impersonate him? Or has this been Johnny Depp all along? And there never was a Percival Graves.
Oh, I think
he was in hiding, right? Grindelwald was in hiding. I would have to think that there had to exist a Graves.
So Grindelwald would have killed the real Graves.
That's my take. Well, you saw in the second movie that he was willing to kind of take out people.
Yeah.
Including babies. Although he didn't actually do it. And I do have qualms with the actual title of that second movie because really, outside of escaping, he didn't really commit any crimes.
Right. Well, it's like the Charles Manson kind of situation where he's getting everybody else to do what he wants.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So, but I guess there's 5 movies. I thought there, in this day and age, you got like 3 movies lined up. So you're like, all right, the next one's going to just kind of tie it all together. But there are 5 we're planning for this. So
I did read that. Initially, it was going to be 3, and then they upped it to 5. And who knows? After the box office performance of The Crimes of Grindelwald, they might.
Well, I mean, my guess is, did it not do good?
No, it didn't. Well, if you read the media, it's all relative because it didn't break 100 million, and again they call it.
Well, these movies are. I mean, this is probably a $200 million movie when all's said and done.
Yeah, that was the production cost.
That was the production cost. Yeah. Which I mean, they sunk a ton of money into this. I'm sure, advertising, promotions, and whatever. I will say in the first. Well, let's go back to the Fantastic Beasts for 1 second, which is Jim. We talked about the Godzilla, the new Godzilla's coming out, and that they kind of these designers have to step up their game with these new creatures. The creatures that exist in this world, and there's that whole scene where they go into Newt's suitcase, and it is just like a full-on zoo. You've got environments and all these other characters, and these critters are so cool looking, and I'm just like, someone better take a page from whoever's designing these things and step it up in the next Godzilla movie. I'm tired of seeing Mothra. I want to see some antlered critter. Those creatures were really cool.
They are.
And I'm guessing, without reading the actual field guide, I'm sure a lot of those creatures existed in the field guide that this was kind of based on. So I'm sure there was people who were fans of that and were just like losing their crap that there was some cool quad.
Yeah, and speaking of the creatures, it's the Thunderbird that obliviates the entire city of New York at the end of the first Fantastic Beasts to make them forget. So this bird causes a rainfall.
Well, he uses something. He gets some blue something he squeezes out of one of the creatures. And
so everybody forgets, including Kowalski, our Jacob.
Yeah.
In a very sorrowful moment, because that means he's going to forget his infatuation with Queenie. All he has to do is take one look at her again, and she's not somebody that you can
right.
That's hard to be infatuated with.
And that was a cute ending to that there was a potential
that he remembers.
Right.
But my question is when you're obliviated, is it selective obliviation?
It has
what
to be.
Do you forget?
Well, they said bad
memory, yes.
Bad memories. But he had nothing. But that was their out in the second one, which when he suddenly comes back and he knows Newt, he's like, oh, well, I remembered all the good stuff I had with you. I just didn't remember the bad
stuff. So in other words, you come back as a Disney cast member. Then you're prime. You're prime for Disney. My dad beat me. I don't remember.
I don't remember. Have a good day. It's a small world.
Yeah. I had some stomach issues last night. Don't remember.
Could take some of that every night.
Yeah. So Fantastic Beasts, I think, did it. For anybody looking for a Harry Potter fix and puts on Fantastic Beasts, the first movie, I think will get what they're looking for. So in terms of popcorn buckets, I think I would give it 3.5.
I'll go 3.5.
I'll go 3.5.
I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I like the creatures. Like I said, Newt is almost a throwaway.
Like he's bumbling and stumbling.
Like I said, I don't know if I'm completely invested. I did like the fact that he was infatuated with Tina, and he was unable to kind of do anything with it. And obviously we get more of that in the second one. But I really liked Kowalski, and I really liked Queenie's relationship, and it kind of the fact that he was a nomad and she was a wizard, and that they could never really have a relationship because it's so frowned upon. Kind of hit home some of the other stuff that they were talking about and why the wizards were in hiding, and that kind of carries through in a big way in the second one.
Well, wait a second. Are we thirsty or hungry at all? Should we head our way out?
I do need some sustenance.
Time for leftovers.
Okay, let's go.
Ooh, turkey sandwich.
Okay, we're back, and we're ready to get into it. The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Which is a
call this the Crimes of J.K. Rowling, perhaps?
I'd like to think that she has a game plan, but whatever.
But really, to throw away, this movie, I think, is so slowly paced.
Ooh, it is.
And really just plotting with exposition and plot and character and plot and character. I was in a comatose state by the end of it. Like, I wanted it to end. I was not engaged by this movie at all.
How crazy is that? Because after watching the first one the day before, I can't remember a time when I went into, especially since we started this podcast, gone into a movie so looking forward to this second movie. Like, the first one had left on such a fun, like, entertaining note. And even though there were those hints of darkness coming on, and you get the Johnny Depp character, and you're like, all right, Johnny Depp is Johnny Depp, man. And, he's going to give it his all. And I felt the same way. It was, the opening scene comes, and it's a great escape scene, even though I couldn't explain how exactly he escaped, but he somehow escapes. Just like in Halloween, they wait until it's like dark, rainy night, to release him from the prison. He's going to go back to London. You can't these guys are zapping all over the world, zipping and zapping. They got the little tornado. Why do you have to put him on a freaking stagecoach and fly him through the air over the ocean where he has opportunity, like hours of opportunity to figure out? And didn't they say they cut his tongue out? Did they not?
They did, or they just, they levitated it outside of his mouth. I don't know if they actually cut it out.
She said
magically removed it.
They had to replace his guard 3 times because he's very persuasive. So we removed his tongue. That's what she said. And then 2 minutes later, he's talking.
And then he had that little porcupine in the cell with him, which I assume Abernathy got into him because he had that help from the guy from the first movie. His name was Abernathy, who was in the.
See, it was kind of a weird, like, all of a sudden he's breaking loose and he becomes somebody else. It was cool. It was a great looking scene, but it didn't really.
It reminded me of the scene from one of the last Harry Potter movies where they take the potion, so they're all looking like Harry Potter.
Oh, that was great, though. That was a fun scene.
Yeah.
That was fun.
But so from there, it just goes downhill.
Yeah, it's like one big setup for the next movie.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I mean, you get Dumbledore, and it looks like, Jude Law. You got Jude Law playing Dumbledore. He's like, all right, let's go. You get, like, bits and pieces of him. You don't get full on.
The only scenes that really make this movie come alive involve Jude Law and Johnny Depp. And they are few and far between. Like the whole Johnny Depp scene that we talked about just a few minutes ago, where he's got his followers and he's kind of foreshadowing what might happen in World War II and what might happen to the magic community. And he's really got them in the palm of his hand. And it really shows how good of an actor Johnny Depp is, I think, in those scenes.
My brothers, my sisters, the clock is ticking fast. My dream, we who live for truth, for love. The moment has come to take our rightful place in the world where we wizards are free. Join me or die.
And Jude Law is just fabulous, I think, in anything that he does. So he really does. I think he nails Dumbledore. But again, he's not in it enough to really make that much of an impression.
Right.
Because at the end of the movie, where whatever curse that they had between them, Dumbledore and Grindelwald, that they could not fight each other, has been removed now. So now you're thinking, oh, the next movie should be good.
Right, because that's the thing, which is they keep Newt gets pulled back in, and his brother who works at the ministry wants him to come and work underneath him and go and hunt down Credence because they know that he's still alive. And that's what I was saying before, where all of a sudden Newt's like, what? He's alive? And it's like, dude, you saw him slip away. And he wants nothing to do with it. And he's like, I don't choose sides, or I don't pick sides. And so they can't use that. They want Dumbledore, but Dumbledore says he can't fight him. And then you find out why in like these flashbacks that they were closer than brothers.
Blood pact or something.
They were closer than brothers, and they made this little blood pact, and they got this little vial. Why only Grindelwald had it and not Dumbledore as well? But it had two little.
But it raised an eyebrow. Like, what was their relationship? Because we all know Dumbledore is gay. So did they have a relationship?
That is true. Well, he did say he was closer than him. And they alluded to that a couple times, the whole brother thing. And that's the big reveal, which I guess a lot of people had issues with.
Yes. It just doesn't make sense. Age-wise,
Yeah.
time-wise.
No. It was like just thrown in there.
And again, like I said, J.K. Rowling she wrote this. Like I think the first 4 credits in the closing sequence were all her name. So she
wrote the screenplays.
Right. So she's all over this. But yeah, I guess I would like to think that true Potterheads would probably love like all the little Easter eggs and all the little hints of things to come. When we saw Hogwarts, people in the audience were like, yeah, they were happy to see Hogwarts or whatever. The main characters that you established in this first movie take a back seat to everything else going on.
Yeah, all the fun things about the first movie, Kowalski and
Queenie. Well, that takes
very much a backseat. So we have those two separated because Queenie is now under the influence of Grindelwald, which I didn't really get. Is he hypnotizing her or something, or because he must need her because her mind reading abilities?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I got the like she kept saying he wants what we want, which is she wanted to, like she had put Kowalski under a spell because she knew that whatever, he would never ask her to marry him because he knows that they can't do that, and she wants to be married. So she's like enchanting him, and then Newt calls her out and frees him, and he immediately makes an ass of himself.
Totally unnecessary, I think. Regardless of any kind of law, I don't think Kowalski has any brighter prospects than Queenie.
No, really.
Stop him,
right? And he even said a couple times, what's a dame like her? I'm not going to meet a girl like this again. And who's making all of his pastries back home? My favorite line was when he actually comes to and he gets in a fight with her and she leaves and he turns to Newt and he's like, "Where am I?" And he's like, "You're in London." He goes, "I always wanted to go here." Like, because he had no recollection of how he got there.
Right. And then Newt and Tina are also split apart by,
that was
vagaries of this
weird,
plot.
Fabricated. Like she saw some news reporter, it was in a book that he was engaged, but it really was his brother.
It was ridiculous. At the end of the first movie, you're really looking forward to these two having a relationship going forward because they finally made it to that point where they could make the next step at the end of the first movie, and then it's right back to the beginning again.
Right. She refers to him as Mr. Scamander, like through the first hour of the movie. And he can't even muster up how he feels about her.
Sitcom-y type stuff. It's like Three's Company.
It is. Well, it was Cheers, right? Cheers, yeah. Three's Company. Misunderstanding of the week.
Hilarity ensues.
There you go. Oh, it was your brother.
Your brother's the engaged one, not you.
And obviously, Lita Lestrange. Was that Bellatrix?
Bellatrix's granddaughter, maybe?
I guess. I don't know. I did like
grandmother, not granddaughter, grandmother.
Yeah. We got Nagini, who is Voldemort's snake.
Yes.
And we find out that she's a human who would eventually be stuck in the snake form. I thought that was kind of a neat. Although I don't think they had to go to the extent of actually telling us that eventually she'll be stuck in that form.
Yeah, I think the name itself was a giveaway.
Right. Yeah. Just enough to be like, oh.
And we have Nicholas Flamel thrown in there as well, who was mentioned, I think, in the Potter series.
There was. I don't.
Was he the? Who was he?
I don't remember.
He's described in this movie as an alchemist that Newt. Yeah. Enlists help. I don't know what his role was in this movie, to be honest.
And did we have a little McGonagall cameo in there?
Yep. But McGonagall was there at Hogwarts.
Yeah, I guess if you look that up, that there's some serious issues with that because it's been established in the books and in other criteria that she wasn't even born until 36.
Right. But that's all this movie is. Are these characters coming in and out of the story? There's no action set pieces to speak of.
There really isn't.
At the beginning or at the end of the movie. It's all exposition, as Jeff said, building up to something that doesn't happen in this movie. So it's really unsatisfying to watch. The ending is that whole rally that Grindelwald has is a sight to behold. But, it doesn't make the whole movie, unfortunately.
No, and then he unleashes that blue fire that become the phoenixes or whatever they are that are going to destroy the city, and they all just circle it and stab their wands into the ground, and boom, we stopped them.
Yeah. I mean, at At one point, I sort of threw in the towel and was just enjoying the scenery.
I will say these movies, there's a lot to look at.
It's too hard to keep up with, like trying to think of what does this mean, or what, how is the plot driving forward here?
Yeah, no, it's there was a lot.
And then, of course, what we mentioned before is the reveal that Credence is a relative of Dumbledore, his long-lost brother.
Do you think he's lying about that? Could we really go like you walked out of Empire Strikes Back and you're like, there's no way Luke Skywalker is Darth Vader's son. Could he just be?
But yeah, because I was reading all these articles online that the Credence is too young for that to be possible. Like what they've already set up. Dumbledore's mother, I think, was killed by his sister in 1899. Albus had to take care of the rest of the siblings. So
because
that would make
what's her name?
28 years old in the first movie, which he was not.
So you talk about that red herring in the first one, and there's a second one in this, which is Credence is just looking for his parents. He just wants to know who his biological parents are. And every turn, someone is lying to him. And they think that they figured it out, and they go to the Lestrange tombstone in the cemetery. And they think I don't even remember now. And anyways, and then Lita says, no, that's a lie because I accidentally killed they think it's her brother.
Yeah, at first they think he's a Lestrange.
Right. And he's like, oh, I got it all figured out, this other guy. And she's like, yeah, that's not true because here's a flashback that's going to tell you I killed my little brother in a boating accident. And I stole this other baby, and that's who you are. Oh,
who just happened to be a Dumbledore.
No, weird.
I wasn't having much of
Aurelius. He tells him his name is Aurelius Dumbledore, but he immediately unleashes like he gives him a wand. Grindelwald gives him a wand, and he immediately obliterates half a mountain. So he's got the power in him, and I don't know if I still think that obviously Grindelwald is very persuasive, and he could very well be just spoon feeding him what he thinks is going to help this kid kind of unleash his powers, but they did lay down some hints. One point, what's her name, I think it was Lestrange, was talking to Dumbledore and asked him, have you ever lost somebody? And he goes, I lost a sister once, but she'd mentioned a brother, and that was kind of, so maybe
I really wouldn't like to think that Rowling would lead us on like that by making Grindelwald lie about at the end of the movie where you've really not been given much except for being hammered with all this exposition, and then the big reveal, and then it turns out in the next movie it's not true. So I'd like to think that it's not a lie, but it doesn't make sense if it's true.
Well, the Phoenix did show up, and that has some sort of Dumbledore.
That is true, and that is another little thingy that Dumbledore tells him. He tells Newt the tale of, in times of need, family members will get a Phoenix. Still waiting.
I also read something to the effect in one of the Harry Potter movies. There's was it number 5 or number 6 where there's a reporter that's trying to unearth all the dirt on Dumbledore. Rita Skeeter, I think her name was.
Yep.
And you would think that she would have known about the existence of another Dumbledore sibling if this has come to light already in the past, and apparently it's been hidden over again once the events of these movies are finally done with.
I guess we do have to wait until the third one comes out.
I guess so.
I guess so. I think at some point you're just going to get rid of Newt altogether because he did choose a side. He did tell his brother, "I chose this."
Yeah, talk about a wishy-washy. He makes Charlie Brown look like he's looked like a Corleone.
Well, that's what I said. He's so non-committal as a character. Like you just kind of I don't even know if I like this guy yet. You're 2 movies in. He's your main character, and I don't even know if I care about him.
Yeah,
I do care about his critters. I think he cares about his critters.
And it's not helped by his delivery.
He cares more about his animals than he does about humans.
So yeah, this movie, I would definitely not give it 3.5 buckets. Like Mike said, there's a lot of eye candy.
It is a lot. It's nice to look at. That is for sure.
I would go down. I would probably say 2.5.
Yeah,
and I'm only giving it the half just because it is a competent film. The performances are good. The special effects are great, but the plot is just not there. So I'm going to go 2.5, and that's charitable, I think.
I'm going to go 3, and it's something that you said, which is it's really just a setup for the next movie. Which goes with the Harry Potter books, right? Each book leads into the next book.
Well, that is true.
And I'm kind of in that sense, it's more satisfying to me.
I think that the next one could make this better. So, but I will go. What'd you say, Jim? 2.5?
2.5.
2.5. And Mike went 3. 2 3/4. I'm going to go right down the middle.
Talk about wishy-washy.
Well, listen. There's a reason my 4th grade teacher used to call me Charlie Brown.
Continuing on with our J.K. Rowling theme, our confessional this week.
Confessionals.
We were kind of tasked by each other to name what each other's Patronus. Are we patronizing each other here?
We are patronizing each other. Because a wizard does not choose its Patronus.
No, they do not. So,
they choose you.
So I was tasked with choosing Mike. Mike is choosing Jeff, and Jeff is choosing me. Is that how the round?
I believe that is correct. That is the way it is. Yeah. And it could be, according to the rules that I looked up, it could be an existing creature, or it could be a mythological creature.
I had no issue choosing Mike's. This came immediately to me. I would choose the owl for Mike.
The owl?
For wisdom. Wow. I think Mike has great wisdom and great dignity. So I would choose the owl.
Well, you know what? Thank you very much, Jim. I had 2 thoughts for Jeff. The first thought, which I'm not going to go with, the first thought as I stare at Jeff's Star Wars collection every week was Pack Rat.
My wife would back that. She would second that one.
And then I thought, that's not a very good Patronus. So I went similar. I went Raven for Jeff in so much as, travels long distances, very clever. And I thought that would be a good Patronus.
I like that. I'll take that.
All right. You are the Raven and I am the owl.
So you guys went, well, that's funny because you guys went realistic. I went mythological on Jim.
Ooh.
Jim is a mix to me. I find you wise as well, Jim. But I also think that in our nerd world, you are incredibly smart. So I have combined 2 animals, the owl and
the owl's taken.
That doesn't matter. And the dolphin. So you are a dolphin.
A dolphin.
It is a dolphin owl equal parts.
How do you envision this?
A dolphin would definitely owl wings, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not he has a beak or if he just has the horns.
Would he wear glasses?
A horned owl. What's that?
Would he be wearing glasses?
Well, a wise owl would. He would also wear the mortar because he just came out of scholarly Hogwarts. No, I don't think glasses. I don't see glasses.
Jeff, we're going to have to insist on seeing a picture of this.
All right, I'm a
dolphin. Okay.
Dolphin. Yep. There you go.
Well, thank you.
You are. I created my own mythological creature just for Jim. Yes.
Nice.
Celestial beast. So what's on tap for next?
Have we decided what our next show is?
Why we have no idea what's next week. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. So, but we got some movies coming up.
Well, we do have the Spider-Verse movie. We're definitely going to cover that.
We need to do Into the Spider-Verse.
But that's not another couple weeks yet.
Aquaman coming up. Aquaman is coming up.
Aquaman as well. I think.
Although they just, I'm getting very, very skeptical on this. They're just pounding those ads. And it's the same one over and over again. And a lot of times when they do that, it's because they want as much upfront opening night money because they know that the word of mouth is just going to sink it. I'm worried. What about Mortal Engines? When's that come out?
I think they're all mid-December. I'm pretty sure they are.
December looks like it's going to be busy for us. But as of next week, we really don't have anything.
Now none of us are clever or wise, are we?
Yeah, no. Now we're just slack-jawed and staring at I have to just dab my drool a little bit. We may have to put our heads together and this.
I still have on a list that I'm on to do the top 5 time travel movies. It's probably not a Christmassy.
This is not apropos to the holidays, Jeff.
It's always apropos. What if I wanted to relive Christmas every day?
Every day, yeah.
Would Groundhog Day be considered a time travel movie?
Yes.
Yes.
I would say
would. Oh, man.
Unequivocally, yes.
My top 5 just got all messed up then.
You just made it a top 6.
All right.
Any interest in Creed 2, or are we doing the holidays?
Creed
2. I forgot all about that. Maybe we should do Creed 2.
I could do that. Could get that. We could go down some rocky road. No.
I would like to see Dolph Lundgren say once again, "I must break you."
I heard he has a pet. It's a dolphin.
Dolphin Lundgren or Dolphin?
Dolphin Lundgren. Oh, we got to cut this off now.
All right. So next week, Creed 2?
There you go.
Okay.
Not Credence. He's a different character. We just talked about.
Dear Credence.
Well, maybe we can pair it up with something. While we do Creed 2. All right, we'll figure it out, kids.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. We're not that quick.
Yeah, you'll have to. Oh, you guys will be waiting on pins and needles all week. What are they gonna pick? Maybe we can have someone write in and tell us what to watch. Okay.
that will not happen.
Yeah. All right.
It'll be a short episode next week, guys.
It'll be a short episode. Creed 2. He fights, he wins. Thank you. Ding, ding. All right, kids.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
I was not being a creep! I'm simply listening to your private and very personal conversations from a hiding place like any normal person. I'm not a creep. I just hate secrets. Secrets are dangerous. Now, continue talking.
Boom, baba, boom, baba, boom.
Excelsior!